Hello everyone, back to today's second video. We're going to have a look at whether next week to 10 days, or today's second video, it takes us around the 20th of July. We'll be able to extend out beyond that with the extended GFS and ECM ensembles running to around a couple of weeks. We'll have a look at CFS V2 for the next 4 weeks at the end of the video as always. We will start off though by having a look at this disturbance in the Gulf of Mexico. We talked about this yesterday. There's a disturbance area in the southeast of the states. It's now moved into the Gulf of Mexico, and we're going to have a discussion about that to start off with. Might develop into our next tropical storm. So talk about that very shortly. Just say that the 5-day forecast has been released, and that's having a look at weather for the next 5 days, of course, taking us from today through to Monday. Starting off rather showery. There could be thunderstorms in the northeast today and tomorrow. After that, we've got a drying trend really through to the weekend. Going to be a lot of dry and fine weather on offer over the weekend. Really nice weekend coming up, actually. And that lasting into the start of next week. We'll pick up the storyline beyond that. Today's second video. And notice if you're waiting for storm watch, not sure there's going to be enough thunderstorms around to warrant a storm watch today and tomorrow. I'm keeping it, I'm going to keep monitoring it. We covered today's thunderstorm risk in the 5-day forecast. If things look like they're developing a little bit more tomorrow, then there may be a storm watch tomorrow. But again, as is often the case with this summer, thundery showers around, there will be thunderstorms around, but probably not enough to warrant storm watch. But I'm keeping it under review. Right, so we'll start off with the developments in the Gulf of Mexico then. So we're at the National Hurricane Center. This is the very latest from them. So it's this red X just here, and that is a disturbance area that's moved into the Gulf now. So let's see what National Hurricane Center are saying about this. It's disturbance 1 with a 90% chance of cyclone formation in the next 48 hours. They're saying as of 8 a.m. Today, that, and this is of course American time, they're saying a broad low-pressure area located over the northeastern Gulf of Mexico, about 100 miles south-southwest of Apalachicola, Florida, hope I pronounced that okay, is producing widespread cloudiness and disorganized showers and thunderstorms. Environmental conditions are conducive for development of this system, and a tropical depression is expected to form late today or tomorrow, Thursday, while the low moves slowly westwards across the northern Gulf of Mexico. An Air Force Reserve Unit reconnaissance aircraft is scheduled to investigate, so that's interesting, the disturbance this afternoon. They're going to go and have a look at it this afternoon, see what's happening. This system could produce storm surge and tropical storm or hurricane force winds across portions of the Louisiana, Mississippi and upper Texas coast later this week. And interest there should closely monitor its progress. In addition, this disturbance has the potential to produce very heavy rainfall from the upper Texas coast to the Florida Panhandle. For more information, please see products issued by your local weather forecast office and the NOAA Weather Prediction Center. It has a 90% chance of becoming a tropical cyclone formation in the next 48 hours, which is very high, of course, and a 90% chance of doing so in the next 5 days as well. So it looks like it's going to definitely form a cyclone within the next few hours. So I don't know if this gets named. The next name on the list for this season is going to be Barry, so this might be Tropical Storm Barry. We should wait and see, but certainly this looks like quite a significant development in the Gulf of Mexico now, and it'll be a case of all eyes on it to see how far it develops. Obviously we'll be keeping a close eye on what is currently disturbance 1 over the next few days in the video updates. Right, so coming back closer to home, let's have a look at the GFS temperature, upper air temperature and precipitation ensembles for the next couple of weeks. The red line here is the 30-year upper air temperature average, and it leads today. So we're starting off pretty warm and humid across many parts of the country today. That humidity will still be with us tomorrow, but on Friday into weekend the temperatures will drop and will go much closer to average through the course of next week and into the second half of July, final week of July actually. Now this period just here, we are seeing a warming trend appearing. So I've been talking about this in the videos quite a bit just lately over the past few days. This final week or so of July does have the potential for becoming quite a lot hotter. We still see evidence of that within the GFS ensembles, where quite clearly the white line, which is the ensemble mean, is sort of rising up from where it is just there, which is very close to average, start of next week, to where it is there as we go into the final week of July. Obviously, there is a warming trend, and there is a possibility that it could get quite hot, I think, during this last week of July. But it's uncertain because it's in the extended time frame of the GFS and its ensemble, so obviously there's going to be a lot of uncertainty about it, but the trend is there to turn things warmer through the final sort of 10 days of the month, and particularly in the last week of the month. Precipitation wise, this looks over top, so for the next few days there's risk of showers. I'm not sure there'll be as many as those as many showers as that would suggest in the next few days. Then we get a drier trend over the weekend into start of next week, where it looks like the precipitation spikes are coming back again. To me, that was a little bit overdone. I don't think you would look at that and think it's going to be quite an unsettled couple of weeks, but I don't think it'll be anywhere near as unsettled as that ensemble graph is suggesting that it will be. So I suspect that despite those sort of precipitation spikes, there will be quite a lot of dry weather over the next week to 10 days, probably. Temperature anomalies from the 10th to the 18th of July, very close to average. Most parts of Europe are looking colder than average. We are actually one of the warmer places in Europe here, across the UK and Ireland, also down to Spain and Portugal, in terms of anomalies to average. So close to average, possibly a little bit above average, with a temperature anomaly in the next week. Precipitation anomalies from the 10th to the 18th of July, very close to average again. So not a particularly exciting sort of week coming up. It's all looking rather average, you would have to say. That's how the GFS is looking for Saturday then, and on Saturday we'll begin to build high pressure in from off the Atlantic, that taking over through the weekend. This all covered by 5-day forecast. Of course, that ridge of high pressure stays with us into the early part of next week as well. Bit of a weakening of the high pressure by the middle of next week. This is a week away, Wednesday 17th of July. Just a bit of a weakening, starting to allow showery conditions into the north, but we've still got this ridge down to the southwest. So you head up towards day 10, actually you find the ridge beginning to strengthen. So there's not a dry weather in there, obviously, within the next 10 days. We're basically under high pressure, particularly so that England and Wales, although it is a bit more showery at times, across Scotland and the north of the country. But at day 10, we've got a 1,020 millibar ridge across the country. And this ridge strengthens further actually as we go to the extended range with this GFS run. It turns very warm, if not hot, with high pressure remaining very close to us, bringing up the air from France. So we've got really warm, very warm or even hot air coming up from France. Maybe some thunder suggested for the south, but overall high pressure is dominant, and that's how we look as we end this GFS run, which is Friday 26th of July, looking dry and hot, with that high pressure is well and truly in control. So that does suggest that the final week of July could well see a transition to high pressure and much warmer, if not hotter and dry conditions, taking us into the final week of the month. GEM looks like that. Again, the high pressure is reaching in on Saturday, but probably still enough of a northeast wind to produce showers down the eastern side on Saturday. But by Sunday, we're under that area of high pressure, and that should take us into a mainly dry and fine early part to next week. As we go through next week, again, we see a little bit of a weakening of that ridge, possibly allowing some showery conditions into the north. But for England and Wales, we're always very close to this extension from the Azores high. So you'll expect a lot of dry weather through the course of next week, and quite warm as well. Always a bit more showery up in the north. ECM, again, we've got the ridge building in from the west over the weekend. That's going to bring us a lot of dry and fine weather over the weekend and into the start of next week. Now, as we go through next week, the ECM is a little bit more unsettled. Look at this. It starts to bring these areas of low pressure in the Atlantic, which the other two models, the GFS and the GM, don't really show. So the ECM out of the three is the more unsettled scenario, definitely. These areas of low pressure meandering their way in from off the Atlantic, and much more of a northern blocking signal as well. We've got all this high pressure still there, or reforming, I suppose, re-strengthening up over Scandinavia. So it's much more in way of northern blocking with the ECM, and it's much more unsettled, and therefore it's cooler as well as we go through the course of next week. More unsettled and cooler with the ECM, whereas the other two, away from the north anyway, they do suggest a lot of dry weather through next week, and relatively warm, especially so down in the south, I would have thought. Let's see how much support that scenario has within the ECM ensembles today. So these are the options that we've got for day 10, which is going to be the so hang on, that's gone wrong. So let's just quickly flip this over to, it's the 10th today, so let's move that over to there, and there we go. We can see now the scenarios that we've got at day 10. So this is it. These are the scenarios that we've got at day 10 within the ECM Ensemble today, which will be the 20th of July. Day 10 is the 20th of July, of course. We have 24 members of the ECM Ensembles with, this is from the Icelandic Met Office, by the way, have 24 members of the ECM Ensembles with a blocking area of high pressure over Greenland and low pressure as a sort of shallow trough type feature moving in from off the Atlantic. So that's rather cool, rather unsettled. There's 14, including the control and the operational run, with above average heights to our north, bringing a fair amount of dry weather, but there are below average heights kind of like to the west and the south. That would suggest the most unsettled conditions are across southern parts of the country. And then there's 13 that have, again, this blocking area of high pressure across Greenland. So all scenarios within the ECM ensembles are pointing to this high pressure across Greenland. And they have quite a deep trough of low pressure over the UK. So that's the most unsettled scenario. So actually, this scenario that we have at day 10, this rather sort of northern blocking type scenario here with these areas of low pressure coming in to the south and to the west, that is not the most unsettled scenario, and there are sort of at least 13 members of the ECM ensembles that are a lot more unsettled than that. So it does look as though the ECM ensembles are moving more towards something rather cooler and unsettled by day 10. In 2 weeks' time, these are the options that we've got. This is taking us to the 25th of July, so we have 16 members of the ECM ensembles. Still this northern blocking signal, but also some high pressure to our south, low pressure to the northwest of Scotland, and probably sort of raising heights very close to the country, gradually transitioning into something drier and warmer. There's 14 that have this trough of low pressure over the country. Obviously that is a cool, unsettled scenario. There's 12 with high pressure centred over top of the country. That's probably the warmest and driest scenario. Jet streams going up to our north like that. And then there's 9, including the ECM control run, that have high pressure, just to our south. Again, a lot of dry weather with that. Jet stream doing something a bit like that. Might be a bit more unsettled for parts of the north, but overall quite warm and relatively dry. So although in 10 days' time, the ECM ensembles are looking rather cool, changeable perhaps, in 2 weeks' time, it looks like they're trying to go towards something warmer and drier again through that final week of July. Finally, just have a look at the CFS V2. These are 500 millibar heights broken down into weekly periods. The first week period taking us from the 10th to the 16th of July, becoming week with above average heights to our west-northwest. So a fair amount of dry weather on offer in the week ahead. But there will be these showers, especially to start off with, and then high pressure becomes more influential over the weekend. Week 2 looks a bit unsettled. This would be 17th to the 23rd of July with below average heights out to our west. So obviously that is a rather more unsettled type scenario for that week, the 17th to the 23rd of July. I mean, it's not a washout, not a deep trough of low pressure parked over top of the country, but it does look a little bit more unsettled. However, week 3 gets back to high pressure very quickly. This is the 24th to the 30th of July. Above average heights return very close to the UK, so that will bring a lot of dry and fine weather as we close out the month. And then week 4, which is the 31st of July to the 6th of August, high pressure is over the top of the UK, so that's pushing the jet stream a long way northwards as well. Lots of dry, fine and warm weather to enjoy with that one. So it's all looking rather confusing. It looked as though yesterday we was beginning to get a bit of a clearance within the output, and we're starting to get some agreement across the model output. Today it's all looking a little bit confused again. I think we are gradually inching our way to something warmer and drier through the final week of July. That's the way I think this is going to go. Possibly turning quite hot the last week of July. But how we get there, how long that takes to happen, there's a lot of uncertainty. How unsettled will it get next week as well? That's uncertain with the GFS and the ECM. So questions. We've still got a lot of questions to answer for this July. It's been a very, very confused month, this July. It's always been a very difficult month to pin down. We are now 10 days into this July, and it's still proving to be a very difficult month to pin down as well. But I do think that the last 10 days, and particularly the last week of the month, could well provide something quite a lot hotter. So that's just something to keep an eye on, I think, within the model output over the next few days. Right, that's it for your 2 videos for today. Tomorrow we may do storm watch. Not sure there's going to be enough thunder around really to warrant a storm watch. It's all covered by the 5-day forecast anyway. Also, week 10-day video update coming up tomorrow as well. We might do something for some more events and that kind of thing tomorrow also. But that's all for now anyway, and thanks for watching.